Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Luka's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my.
Luka Nation. Today's going to be one of your guys' favorite segments. It's our Coffee with Cage segment. And we haven't done it what feels like in 2 weeks, but maybe that's just because so much is going on in the hobby. Before we jump into that, what I think makes our podcast incredibly unique and different is you get two hosts that are in completely different stages of their lives. Cage has been, and this is one of the questions that we're going to get. Cage has been collecting for 30 years. He's been building up his portfolio for that whole time. And then you get me. I'm someone that's been flipping and buying things online for a long time, but I got into sports cards 2 years ago. So you get to hear two different perspectives. And guys, I want to share with you that I also, and I believe that there's people out there feeling this, woke up with a ton of FOMO the last 3, 4, 5 days. I'm like, man, look at all of these cards. These Jordan PSA 10 is now at a $700,000 price point. The 8 is at $20,000. The 9 is $60,000. Point being is, I feel just like you guys feel that I'm missing the boat. I know firsthand how hard it is to build up a portfolio from almost zero. So the point being is, I feel those same things that you guys are feeling, that we get messages about. And what I just try to remind myself, and Cage could jump in here right after I'm done, is just take it one step at a time, And Cage says, by a mile, life is a pile. By an inch.
By the mile, life is a pile. Come on. By a mile, life's a pile. I like it. That's a different version. It's by the yard, life is hard, but by the inch, life's a cinch.
Right. And
by the mile, life's a pile.
By the same premise, just take it one step at a time. What's the next best investment that you can make? And it might be something like investing your time into putting together an Excel spreadsheet so that all of the cards that you have in your portfolio, right? So what I urge you guys is not to get too super overwhelmed. And this message is as much for me as it is for anyone out there. Don't get overwhelmed. There's always going to be more investment opportunities. You didn't miss the boat. Don't get impatient and gamble. Message to myself. Dogcoin, insert here. Or Dogecoin, insert meme here. But just take it one step at a time. Make sure to tap into those positive habits that that have been working and try to cut out the negative ones. And in no time, believe it or not, you will start seeing success. So that's my little public service announcement this morning, Cage. It was as much for me as for anyone else.
Oh, me too, man. There were cards selling last night where I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. I could have had that, or I did have that. I mean, listen, I can tell you there are cards sold last night for a lot of money that I personally sold for a little bit of money in the last year or two. You know what I mean? Cards that I missed out on that I should have bought, cards that I owned in my collection that I sold. So I'm with you. I understand that. So, and I know that the little segment you just did there, that intro is going to resonate with a lot of our folks, a lot of them. Because look, you guys have cards, you have stuff you invested in. And the only thing that I'll layer on top of this is don't have that FOMO right now. Be happy that you got in on cards this year, or in the last 6 months, or in the last 2 months, because you got in before what happened this weekend. This weekend is like, some will view it as a watershed moment, right? Oh, wow, the card's really worth that. Is the Jordan card that sold for $750,000 really worth that money? 2 of them sold. I mean, just crazy money, right? So, the next one's going to sell. I mean, it's going to sell for less. It's going to go down. There's going to be a period of it coming down. That's what everybody seems to think. I saw some live stuff last night for some other, talk shows, some other podcasts saying this is ridiculous. It's going to take a break. But they're thinking the way the old economy thought. They're thinking the Jordan cycle that I can go through myself with you, from 24 up to 50, back down to 40, up to 80, back down to 60, up to 100, back down. And every peak, it goes back up, and it comes down and then goes back up. Here's the difference. I don't work for Ken Golden, right? But I would bet dollars to donuts. An old man saying there. It used to make much more sense when donuts cost a lot less than $1. But I bet dollars to donuts that those cards, perhaps both of them, were purchased by a fund, something that didn't exist in the hobby a year ago. And what I mean by a fund is I bet you they were purchased by a company that is investing in cards, investing for people in cards. And they're a mutual fund, a quote unquote fund of cards to invest in that people will give 50,000, 100,000, 10,000, whatever it is, and they are invested in a fund. And those Jordans are the cornerstone of any fund, right? And I think that a lot of the reason why a lot of these big cards, the the LeBrons that we've seen purchased, that Giannis logo man that was purchased, these cards, that the Trout, I think these cards are all going to be, cornerstones in, hey, invest in our fund because we have this asset. We invest in our fund because we have this asset. And it's almost like a price of entry to have that Jordan PSA 10. Investors who are going to have, lots of choices to where they put their 10, 20, 30, or $100,000 in this area. The first question they're probably going to ask is, hey, do you have a Jordan PSA 10 in your portfolio? Which is a lot of the reason why it's buoying the prices. Not to mention, I think that these funds are now going to be, they're going to have to tell their investors, hey, I made 10% this year. Hey, we made 15, 20%, which means the next one of these that comes up for sale, there are now other funds that own it that have a vested interest in making sure that that card stays up. Almost like, mutual funds that own positions in companies and in their stock. They set a floor for those stocks. And if the stock starts to sell below that, they come in and they provide support for the stock because they have a major holding in it. I think that's what's going on. And why is that relevant for the folks listening to this? It's great publicity for our hobby, and it shows you that the investment side of this alternate investment is not going anywhere. Because if that Jordan card in PSA 10 is worth $700,000, then the 9 is worth what now? 150? I mean, what did the 9 sell for? I mean, what is that going for? Go ahead.
20K just a few months ago, and I mean, we have that famous clip where you said, "Don't miss out on it. Don't sell your 8 till you get the 9." But the 9 was a $20,000 card. The
20
9
grand
more than the 10.
Yep.
I got to be honest, that fascinates me in a lot of ways.
It does. I mean,
and quite a few times actually recently.
Yeah, I mean, and the chase. So what's an 8 worth now? I mean, the 9. I turned a 9 down. Someone tried to get $16,000 a couple months ago off me for a 9, and I'm like, that's a lot of money.
You don't like 9s anyway, Cage. You're a PSA 10 guy.
I am. I'm a 10 snob. But here's another fun one. What's the star one worth now? I have a star one. What's the star going to sell for now? I mean, it's just crazy. But the point for our guys is
giving our Luka Nation FOMO.
But you shouldn't, because guys, maybe you have another Jordan, or maybe you have a LeBron. Maybe you have one of the LeBrons we've spoken about. Maybe you have a Kobe card, and maybe it's not his PSA 10 refractor rookie, but maybe it's another card. It's another nice card that's out there. All of those cards have taken a step up. Now, maybe they didn't triple in value like the Jordan PSA 10 did last night alone, right? Maybe they didn't do that. But your cards are all going up. They're all going up because there's a huge light being shown on this as a legitimate way to invest your money outside of real estate, outside of stocks, you name it. It is become and will now remain a legitimate asset class. And people are going to look for those blue chip assets. And if you've been listening to us and you listen to Andrew tell you to go out and buy Kobe rookies, those Kobe rookies are all worth more than they were. Now, if you happen to be investing solely in Bam Adebayo or Tyler Hero, or Devontae Graham, this weekend's events probably didn't do much for your portfolio, right? But if you have some exposure to the blue chip guys, I mean, look, Mickey Mantle, that was the most stagnant thing in the world, right? Mickey Mantle cards. But now all of a sudden, the 10s are probably worth $30 million. The 9 that sold for 5.2, you just saw an 8 go last night for $1.6 million.
Yep.
The next 8 that comes up is going to sell for over $2 million.
You're absolutely right. Hey, so can you fix your headphones because it's yep.
It's not doing good. Okay.
No, you're doing great. It's catching a little background noise. But real quick, Stephen Hugh from Pembroke Management. If you guys haven't seen this interview, take a quick listen. It's like a minute or 2 minutes long. He was on Bloomberg, and he's talking about how legitimate hedge funds and private equity asset managers are looking at collectibles as a legitimate investment opportunity. So if you guys haven't seen that, this is on Bloomberg, and this is a portfolio management talking about it. So exactly what Kate just said. Now you're on mute, killer. But
I think LeBron and Kobe cards are a better place to put your money than GameStop stock. You know, I mean, like let's be honest with what you see going on here. So that's, I love it. I love the intro, and I love, the point that you're making to Luka Nation, which is, guys, this is not a weekend to be disheartened. It's not. I do it myself. Oh, I can't believe I sold that card. Look what it sold for last night. Or hey, I had a chance to buy that card. I can't believe this stuff's going up. No, be happy about the small wins that you do have. You bought a Kobe card, way to go, because it's going up. You have some Jordan in your portfolio, some vintage baseball. People are going to be looking for all of it again. We saw the bounce last year. That this is now going to ripple down again into other cards. So be happy that you're part of it.
I think so as well. Quick shout out to one of our longtime fans, Oliver Lee. He used to work for Family Guy. I think he's at Netflix now. He just got engaged. Congratulations, Oliver, from all of us at Luka Nation. We love you, man. Thank you for all of your support. Cage, you've been gaining fans. Now my sister's boyfriend's brother submitted a question. I'm going to start with him first. AJ Chekhov, the Chekhov family. You know that. They ask, how did you get into sports cards?
It was definitely something to do as a kid. When I was young and there was no cell phones and Fortnite and Among Us and whatever else the youths are doing now, we would play stickball on the street and ride bikes. And, your parents wouldn't know where you were for like 4 days in a row. Think of the Sandlot, because that, really was what it was like, kids riding on their bikes and getting into mischief. But I was lucky enough to live in a modest attached house. My neighbor sneezed and I'd say, God bless you. You share a wall with them, row housing. And but it was right behind a little, what do you call it, like a strip mall type of thing, right? It was, it was a vacant lot. We'd ride our bikes in there, hope to not get ticks. And you'd ride through, and on the other side was a supermarket. Wallbounds was a supermarket, and there was a McDonald's and a little two stores, one called Peddler's World, one called Cards and Gifts, and they sold packs of cards. And what we would do, my younger brother and I, as a little bit of a hustle, is we would ride our bikes over to the supermarket and we would offer people help getting their groceries to the car. We'd say, oh, you got a lot of bags. You want to bring your groceries to the car. And we carry bags for them. We carry bags to the car, elderly, women who have their kids with them. And at the time, you couldn't take your cart all the way to your car. I guess people were stealing carts. This is a city thing, I guess, right? People were stealing the shopping carts. So, it was tough to take 15, 20 bags to your car. So we would do it. We'd hang out there in front, you'd be clean cut and people wouldn't think you were stealing their groceries. You say, hey, we can help you in the car. We would take their groceries to the car for them. And they'd, usually give us $1, $1 or $2. And, you did that long enough. You stayed out there for a couple of hours and you make $5-10. And that was enough to go into the McDonald's and grab a Happy Meal for $2 and spend the rest on, quarter packs of cards, And I remember buying packs of 86 tops, 87 tops, at Peddler's World and Cards and Gifts. And that was how I got into cards. Then most of the stuff wasn't worth money and it wasn't thought of the same way now. I mean, you want to talk about daily fantasy and stuff. I remember 1987 tops wood border cards. Bo Jackson was a cool future star in there. He had an 86 tops traded, but I didn't have one of those. But he had 87 tops. It was a cool future star card. He was like, in the outfield, ready to catch a ball. And I remember trading those to people for 87 tops Paul Molinar cards because during that year, he had a huge hitting streak. So I was like, oh, man, he's daily fantasy. This guy's on a streak. Here, take my rookie Bo Jacksons and I'll take Paul Molinar. And it's just funny how, I learned as – I don't think I was 10. Yeah, maybe I was 10 at the time. I learned there, hang on to your blue chips and don't jump on what's hot that minute. I learned that lesson pretty quick because, everybody I tell that story to, like, come on, that Molinar card's worth like a nickel. What are you doing? And Bo Jackson was like the big card at the time. So that's how I did it. I mean, it was another one of those things. Also, I had a younger brother and, I had, my dad, worked a lot, wasn't around a lot. And on weekends there were card shows and it was, something we could do with him, something to collect, where it was something we did, a father-son type of deal. The first set I got, Mr. Chekhov, was I got injured playing football and somebody bought me a complete set of Topps baseball cards, 792 card factory set. Before that, it was just buying, packs of cards and trading them with the kids in the neighborhood. That's it. Long story.
I
You
love
didn't
it.
know about my grocery carrying days. You always have to be hustling, man.
I respect it, Cage. I didn't know you were such a young hustler.
Yeah, well, you got to make money somehow. That and snow. We love snow, man. You shovel people's front yards, their driveways, their walkways and stuff. Snow is the
Fun
best.
fact. So this is a Jordan question, and we're gonna get a ton of Michael Jordan questions. The Michael Jordan Fleer today, naturally with the record sale, but Flo Bros Collectible, amazing,
Nice.
just literally unbelievable name. I think he can't type properly, so I'm gonna try to get to what he's saying. But he said, "When are wax Jordans gonna take off?" I think he means the sealed wax, right? But what's a fun fact about that, Cage? I didn't know if you know that. On average, a hobby box. I don't even know if they were called a hobby box back then. 86 Fleer has 36 Jordans in it.
That's not true.
Not true?
It's got 36 packs. It doesn't have 36 Jordans.
Okay.
It has two to three Jordans.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
You
about
know
three
better.
Jordans. Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So
So there's not a Jordan. There's not a Jordan in every pack. That would be weird. Because
More exciting.
there's a sticker in every pack, and there's a couple of Jordan stickers in every box also. But yeah, there's like three Jordans in a box. But if the question is when's wax gonna go up, there was a wax box sold last night for record price also, which you would imagine is the case. Same with 1980 Topps basketball when the Magic and Bird card went up significantly as well last night. So wax follows. It's like everything else. And the wax will always go up, whether there's a Jordan, not a Jordan, an off-center Jordan, who knows what kind of Jordan's in there. But yeah, the wax is already going up. The wax has been going up. So I mean, I can look at what it was. It sold for what, $300,000, $400,000. I mean, the wax. It was a huge increase in the wax price as well as you would expect from when the single card went up the same way. So that's a cool way of investing. Also, you buy sealed wax. A box like that's 35 years old, right? This year, I don't know if you're gonna get a 10 in there, but it almost doesn't matter because having the sealed wax from that year becomes the investment. I think if you go ahead.
Carrot Top Cards asks, what does the record sale of the MJ86 Fleer mean for card prices and the rest of the hobby?
Yeah, well, we kind of did that as the intro, right? So what does it mean? Let's see what winds up happening. Let's see if there's any kind of a downward spiral. That's what Darren Ravel tweet basically like. If that's really the price, then how come the one on StockX for $400 and something thousand hasn't been? But I went on StockX as soon as I saw that, and there was none on StockX for $400 and change. I mean, maybe that person raised their price, but now the cheapest one on StockX was like $723, and there's one for $1 million. Maybe that 723 gets bought. Who the heck knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But what does it mean? I'll be honest with you guys. If I'm allowed, what it means is that the landscape in this hobby has changed. I think it changed about 6 months to a year ago, but there was not a lot of publicity around it. You saw some Gary V videos. My co-host here, Andrew started talking about this. It was a year. We knew it was a year where those high-end cards, those rarities, are going to come off the board and become even more rare. And I think that's what you're seeing. But now, Ken Golden is doing auctions. He's going to have another one in March, I think. It'll be a month and a half away. He's shining a huge light on these things. Every one of these auctions seems to have a record price. And that's another one that's off the market, right? And I think the reason for that is we've seen more money come into this asset class this year than any year before. There's a huge amount of money that's come in. And the money that's coming is not 100 you and me who are looking to invest $1,000 or $1,500. It's 100 or 200 or 1,000 rich people. It's people who are celebrities. It's people who have money. It's people who own their own companies. It's athletes, right? It's athletes who are friends of people who bought cards, and they say, hey, you know what? I've invested millions of dollars. Here's 500,000. Here's $1 million invested in cards for me. Because that's just 0.5% of a quote unquote diversified portfolio for them. And the Jordan, LeBrons, Mahomes, Trout, Mickey Mantle, this is where that money's going to go. So what does it mean? It means there's a lot more light being shined on it. I think it's going to lift all shifts, right? I talk about the rising tide, but I think, and you talked about this early on this month, what it means is that the high end stuff is going to go even higher, I think. And you saw that in yesterday's stuff. I think you're going to see other record prices for those Grail type cards.
He had a follow-up question. Is the top, and I'll rephrase it, but he asked what happens to the LeBron 2003 Topps Chrome? Is a LeBron 2003 Topps Chrome a vintage card? Is it a Grail card? Is it a card that goes to 100K?
So it might, it remains to be seen, because the difference between the LeBron Chrome and the Jordan is there's that one card for Jordan, 316, 317 of them, and you're done. There's no variants, there's no golds, there's no blacks, there's no refractors. It's it. So you know the universe, you know what they are, and you can't improve upon it. Whereas the LeBron Chrome base is going to be limited, one, by the fact that there's significantly more than the Jordan base. But on top of that, I think of what's going on now, guys, in our hobby as the tournament, the poker champion tournament, right? Where there are different tables and you're looking to try to get to the champions table. They're whittling it down, right? That's what we have going on in cards. And right now, to sit at the champions table, you have a Michael Jordan PSA 10, right? The table next to it is for people with 9s, right? If you are at that table and you want to stay at that table, holding a Chrome base LeBron, the person next to you can improve upon that by having the refractor in 10. And the person next to them can say, well, you don't belong at this table either, because I got the X-fractor in a 10. And I got the black refractor in a 10, which there's 20 of. Yep. I got the gold refractor in a 10. And so you have to be more mindful with the more recent cards. It's why some of my favorite cards are like the Jerry Rice rookie card, the Joe Montana rookie card. I mean, look, it doesn't hold it back, right? You see $500,000 or more being paid now for Tom Brady cards. But there are other Tom Brady cards, right? You have the different autos. You got the Bowman, you got the SPX, you got all these things. The more modern stuff, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. I think that LeBron card is going to be huge. But I also want everyone to be mindful of this fact, right? So that Jordan card was $150,000 coming into, the last few months, 150. So basically it's gone up 4.5x, right? That's it, right? So part of that goes to, the auction house gets money, you name it, but you want to round up and say 5x, somewhere between 4 and 5x. So the LeBron at the end of the bubble, which was a 10 or 11 or 12 card, came down to $7,500, $8,000, right? That's where it was, 8,000, 9,000. If you 4x the 7,750 or 8,000, you're at the 30-ish that it's at now. So I would argue with you that the Jordan card shouldn't surprise you, because it's just now gone in line with what the LeBron's already done. You know what I mean? And the LeBron adds with it. And yeah, you want to tell me, okay, that's not fair. Really, it was 10, and to go 5x, it should be 50, and 30 is a bargain. Okay, I could buy that. 30 might be cheap, and maybe it's a $40,000 or $50,000 card. Sure. It doesn't hurt that there are people out there we know who have 50 of them, right? That doesn't hurt their wallet, and also doesn't hurt the fact that real population, available population, is different than population. In any event, I mean, the key on it is that card's already gone up a lot. I would think $100,000 would be crazy for a card like that. Now, a refractor might be $250,000 or $300,000 or $400,000. That wouldn't surprise me. That can move more in line with the Jordan, because really what you're looking at is top level people looking to get the top level unimprovable card, right? We've had Rob G on here with the PSA 9 for 5.2. Trust me, if he could have gotten a 10, he would have gotten a 10. And, while I'm sure he sleeps well at night, he does have to go to bed knowing that there are 3 people out there in the world who can sit at the table next to him and say, you don't belong at this table, because here, I have the 10. You only have the 9. There's a lot of that going on at the top end of the hobby right now. So
you 412 sports cards, and we'll move on to other topics. Do you see a little correction coming with Jordan cards in the future?
So normally I would say yes, and I know some of our friends, Card Ladder, House of Jordan, you name it, we have already gone on record and say that it has come down. I'm gonna actually go against that and say that it doesn't. I'm gonna say it doesn't, not because it's a card is worth that much money, and I wouldn't be, it wouldn't shock me if there was a slight pullback and a correction, because I would imagine that there's going to be people out there who bought the card for 100 or less, and now say this is life-changing money. I could sell the thing for, $600,000-$700,000. It wouldn't surprise me. This is what happens. We've talked about this with countless amounts of cards. Once the price goes up, a little bit of supply comes out. When that supply is there, it meets the demand and the price comes down a little. But this one here, I think that the last 10 of these that have come up for sale have been purchased by funds, have been purchased by people that are not going to run back to the market and sell it for a quick return. I think that these guys have a vested interest in that card continuing to go up. I think that card is, Gary said it, but he said it's going to be $1 million card in a couple of years. I don't think he meant it's going to be $1 million card in a couple of months. I think it's $1 million card. I really do.
Something I talked about maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago was I called some sellers greedy, but I actually rethought about what I was saying there. And I actually think there's something different. I think what we have now is smart sellers. And what I mean by that is, one, they're not desperate, but two, more than likely, if they own a Jordan Fleer PSA 10, they also had a pretty sizable portfolio. And that portfolio made them a lot of money last year. And as a result, they're no longer as desperate as they might have been just 12 months ago to cash out a card for what seems like a lot of money. I think now the people holding that card, whether they're higher end investors or just someone like me, but made 200, 300K last year, they're thinking, I'm not going to cheapen it. I'm going to be because I called them greedy, but then I went back and I said, they're not greedy. They're just smart. They know that if they hold, they could get a little bit more. They could shop it around. And it's something I noticed and I wanted to bring it to you guys.
Well, if hypothetically I own that card, I'll ask you, if you own that card, would you sell it right now? Because I wouldn't. Look at you.
I don't think people
deep in thought.
Well, I don't think people like me own that card, frankly. I think
there
people
are probably
like
some people out there.
People like you own that card who have a high-paying job, who've had success, they bought Devontae Graham, and regardless if they missed or hit with Devontae, they made a good amount of money on prospecting, and they're not desperate to sell their blue chip stocks because their mortgage is paid for. They know where their money's coming from. They have a boatload of savings because the last year they were able to cash out on some lower end cards. So I don't think people like me are selling it, truthfully. I think people like you have it.
Well, let's say you had one. You got lucky. You flipped a bunch of Zions into a $15,000 or $20,000 card last year, and you're able to flip that $20,000 card into a 50 or 80, and you managed to, paperclip your way up to a Jordan. You had put one in front of you right now. Your great uncle left it to you in a will. You sell it today?
Yes, because I'm a profit taker. And it fucks me. It F's me up.
So you take the profit.
I had the 8 that I got for basically $600 in a trade, $600 in a grade, grading at BGS. I got it in a trade. I sold it for $8,000, but I could have probably held it and sold it for 15, 16, 17 now.
So by that regard,
no.
Didn't taking some profit, now you regret it?
I don't want this to be a psychological call with Andrew.
All right, move on to the next question. But this is the fun of something like that happening, right? Because there are people out there now who are holding it, who are saying, I don't need the money, but does this provide an opportunity for me to cash out with some significant profit? And it's not just the Jordan, guys. I want you to look. The Mickey Mantle cards, they went crazy. There was a PSA 5 in the auction last night. There was an 8, obviously, but there was a 5 in the auction last night. You could get a 5 this summer for 50. I think it sold for 150 or 140 something. So even that card in like a lower, I don't want to call it approachable grade, it's still $50,000 is a huge investment for a card. But this is what Andrew and Jeremy Padower and myself talked about several times in these episodes, that rubber band, that snapping effect, right? When that 10 moves up, the lower grades, it takes a little while, but it snaps back up with it. So Rob purchasing that, $5.2 million 9 brought the 8s up, and it brings the 7s up, and how the 5s are up, and the 4s will be up, and you name it. So it's an interesting thing. This was a very crazy weekend, auction wise. And let's give Ken Golden some credit, man. I've never spoken to the guy personally, but actually that might not be true. I think he did call me once to try to get a couple cards in his auction, but I don't know him. We'll change that.
Went out for bagels and locks together at Cat's Deli.
No, but we'll change that. This year we'll both speak to Ken Golden about some cards and some auctions and stuff like that. But besides that, give him some credit, man. He took the influencer model I went out there and said, all right, this is it. I'm talking it up. I'm talking up my stuff, and let's talk about these cards. And I'm sure you're going to continue to see more of them. So good for him.
Andrew Griff asks, what is a better buy? The Griffey Upper Deck rookie PSA 10 or the Trout Topps rookie PSA 10? This is up your alley.
So I'm shocked that Griffey card, which again, when I got back into the hobby big time 2 years ago, you could buy as many of the Griffey cards as you wanted at $400 a piece. And they're approaching $4,000 now, which is the same, right? Everybody in this hobby has gone 10x. If you came in 2018, you could basically throw your money at a wall and it 10x by now. But what's funny is, what's the Trout at now? What's the Trout update? Was it like 3,000, 3,500? I mean, is it about the same as the Griffey? I think. It's the same thing. That was like a $500 card, $600 card. And then it went to 1,000 really quick. Honestly, if I had, let's just assume that Trout is a $4,000 card. Like, the question assumes that they're the same. I think I would go with Trout right now if I were looking for a little bit of a riskier play. And here's why. He can still do something. Yep. He's young. He can still add to his MVPs. He can still add to his resume. I don't think he's going to get traded, but maybe that team adds a couple pitchers. Who knows? And maybe he wins one. Maybe he wins a championship, which Griffey never did. They're a very good comparison because Griffey, he didn't end with any statistical category number one. And I think Trout's going to be the same way. He's just going to compile a lot of stats and be thought of as one of the greats. But if he happens to do something else, if he happens to win an MVP this year and continue, then that could help his cards. There are some negatives to both. There are a lot of cards for Griffey, a lot of cards in 89, a lot of cards, besides the upper deck, and a lot of those upper deck. Same thing with Trout. The downside is, there are golds. There's 50 PSA 10 golds of his. There's that diamond anniversary that's got hundreds of those. There's a lot of different parallels. So we're just talking base. I probably would go with the Trout because it's got a shot for a little bit better appreciation. Although I think Griffey just got a job with Major League Baseball.
Yes, he
so
did.
That'll help his card too.
Epstein hired him like literally day one.
Yeah, he like player development and game development and let the kids play type of stuff. So that's a smart hire too, by the way. But honestly, I'd love to answer the question this way. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. I think they're both as blue chip as it gets. And when I bought mine, I have a Griffey for $400. I bought it and I said, you know what? I'm just looking for a place to put $400 or $500, and I know this is not going to go down. You know what I mean? I didn't think it would 10x. I thought it would slowly continue to go up. I think of it the same way as I always mention this, the Mariano Rivera 92 Bowman card. I just think it's a slow climber. If you're looking for a place to park your money, same kind of deal.
CD Cards asks, thoughts on Star Wars cards rising in popularity and price?
So I wish I had more. I remember going to a card show, obviously more than a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And, there was a table there where they had magazines and a whole bunch of stuff. And, they were really nice. They had given some cards to, they came over, and so I was with my son and they said, here, have these. So I went over and I'm like, all right, we're going to spend $20 at your table, because no one was there. It was like old presidential stuff, you name it. And on the table, there was a case of plastic, broken. The top was broken off, plastic case of the red border Star Wars cards, the old 1977 ones. And I said, how much do you want for that case? And they're like, oh, there's like 35 cards in there. I'll take $2. I'm like, okay, I'll take that, whatever. I mean, Star Wars, that was out when I was a kid, so that was nostalgic. And I went through them, and there were a couple of them that were in decent enough shape. And I actually graded 2. I graded, there was I think it was Luke Skywalker and a Chewbacca one. And I got a PSA 7 and an 8. And I wish I would have done more of it because those cards, they're really selling well. Overall, what I would tell you is be careful with some of this stuff. I love it. I love the fact that these are out there. I love the explosion in Marvel. I love the explosion in Harry Potter recently. I love it all. And there's a reason for it, right? The reason is what we talked about, that desire to be first, that desire to be able to say, I knew it. I was on that first. And you see it all over the place, right? You see it everywhere. You see it with prospects, with baseball guys that haven't come up yet, with Devontae Graham when he's in the most improved player. That's my guy. I found him, right? You see it with Pokemon, right? Because, okay, Pokemon's out there, but you see people who say, Well, I'm looking at the 1995 Top Sun, or I'm looking at the scratch off cards, the Tommy Scratch, Yam Wax, love you. Because you want to be able to say when that one goes up, I was on that. Look at my post from a year ago. I was there first. You're seeing a lot of that in the hobby now, and it's causing increases in people looking for what's next, right? They think, I didn't make my money on basketball this year. I didn't make my money on vintage basketball. I missed out on the Pokemon. Where's that money going to go next? And people are betting on Star Wars. People are betting on Marvel. And, you got to try to be ahead of that curve. So I like it. Star Wars is a huge brand. The Mandalorian is huge. It's popular. Disney has it now. There's going to be consistent content about it. And, I think it's a pretty cool place to put some money. I don't think a reason for it to go down if you're buying that blue chip stuff. Buy Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, So, yeah.
I love it. What do you think? Ace Fresh Cards asks, what are your thoughts on NASCAR racing cards, vintage or modern for that matter? Panini produces National Treasure and Prism, but it seems like this market is on the outside looking in. Also, MJ bought a card, so bought a car company.
Yep, yeah, he did. Bubba Wallace, Bubba Wallace's team. Yeah, he's Bubba Wallace. So it's gonna be tough for it to come to the mainstream, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys because I'm as honest with you as I can. There are some NASCAR Prism cards in the last Luka Nation submission that was submitted last week. All right? And they were submitted by yours truly. I sent them in. No one else did, but I sent them in. They were the 2018 Prism, a couple of Bubba Wallace Prisms with the RC card on them. Haley Deegan, who got in some trouble for saying some stupid stuff recently. But my LCS sold me a dozen Prism blasters for $10 each. Yeah, how do you go wrong? So I love the ability to get in there where no one else is in it. Bubba Wallace is the driver for Michael Jordan's team, so I figured that was a cool way to do it. That said, I don't know anything about this stuff. I think I got a Dale Earnhardt Jr. silver and submitted that, for grading because I heard of them. You know what I mean? You got the Prism stuff, you got the rookies. If that's your thing, go for it. Because guys, we try to get cute with this, right? I did it just because why the hell not, right? But, unless you're watching NASCAR, I open these things. I open them with Ian, and he's like, who's this guy? Who's Richard Petty? Whatever. And I couldn't tell him. I have no idea. It's people with cars. I saw Danica Patrick. I know who that is, right? But it could very well be the next thing. NASCAR's got a huge fan base. And for all the money that's going into soccer cards, right? For all the money that people are putting into soccer cards because of the global demand and all the fans there are of it, why the hell wouldn't you do NASCAR? I mean, half our country watches NASCAR like it's a religion. So I think that there are definitely dumber places to put a little bit of money. But I do some research beforehand. I mean, I may have thrown out cards of the next big up-and-coming racing driver just because I had no clue.
I love it. Cardboard Athletes asks, what are your thoughts on Fortnite cards? Fortnite's been such a success. Looks like Black Knight is the grail card. Good long-term play or no?
The same thing as everything else, right? So I personally have no Fortnite cards, but I see my son playing it. We were talking to Jeremy Padower, right? And my son was, sitting there playing Fortnite, on his console here. Here's the easy answer. If that's your thing, go for it, right? If you know Fortnite, you've been playing it for years and you know the characters and you know who's good and you know who people are going to be after, you have an inside track on that. If it's the Knight, go for it. You know what I mean? If you know that's so it's a grail because people are going after it. Well, if somebody bought Fortnite cards, a year and a half ago and focused only on that Knight card because they knew it, well, they were ahead of the curve on it. Here's one thing I will tell you guys to be very careful about with this stuff, right? Fortnite, racing cards, Potter cards, Marvel cards. Be careful with the pop reports the way they are now, okay? And I'm going to draw a comparison for you guys. And here's the value of the episode. Everybody jumped on the Mbappe train. Everybody was paying money for Mbappe. And the peak hit $3,000 for his PSA 10s. That peak hit exactly when I and 100 other me's were getting their Mbappe's back from PSA. And the pop went up, and the $3,000 Mbappe card vanished. And it was a $700 card. The Marvel cards that are out there, where you see a Captain America card, just a base Captain America last week sell for $1,400 because the pop is like, less than 2 dozen. Be careful if you're the person looking to buy those cards because the pop is going to go up on those. I will tell everyone on this call, I have at least 500 1990 Marvel cards sitting at PSA to be graded. Between the Hollows and the Black Panthers and the Captain Americas and the Thors and Lokis and Juggernauts and whatever else is in that set. I don't think they're all going to get 10s. I mean, you pull them out of sealed wax, you got a shot. But I'm not the only one doing this. I'm not the only one who had the foresight to say Marvel's going to explode a year ago or 6 months ago. So just be careful when you're looking at the pops on these things because those pops, they're going to come. They're going to go up because the cards are going to be coming back in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year from. And the same thing's going to apply to Fortnite. You may look at Fortnite now and say, "Wow, there's just no supply out there. I'm going to pay my money on the night card." Well, there are dozens of that night card sitting at PSA right now, and they will come back at some point in time. So just be careful.
Drake's PC asks, would increased regulation be good or bad for the hobby? Is the possibility of regulation what is driving influencers to constantly talk about a 2 to 3 year window in cards?
So I think the 2 to 3 year window, there's a bunch of reasons for it, right? A lot of it is that the age group of the people coming in and buying cards now, they're spending money. It's people have a tendency to have an attention span that kind of wanders, wanes, waxes and wanes, and people are thinking just like everything that came before it, people will lose interest in it. I think the regulation is interesting. Part of it should be regulated, part of it shouldn't be, and part of it is. I mean, the fractional share stuff, the fund type of investing that we were talking about, definitely needs some form of regulation. Because look, when you do an offering like the Jordan card we talked about with Collectible, right? They got a $265,000 offer. And lucky for the people who voted yes, there were enough people who voted no. Because would you want to be somebody who cashed out of that at 265 and a week later the thing sells for 700? No. So there are regulations involved in that kind of stuff. I would imagine the hobby has more than 2 or 3 years, but I think that regulation is good for it. That's my take on it. I don't see it coming anytime soon. I don't know who the regulatory body would be. I guess as it becomes more of an asset class, if there's going to be offerings of that asset class, it'll be governed probably by federal securities regulations. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But
Flawless Collector asks, hey guys, pods with Jeremy and hybrid grading recently have been fire. Thank you, Flawless. Can you guys talk about BGS 10s and black labels as compared to PSA 10s? I hear a lot of PSA 10s compared to BGS 9.5s in the hobby, but few people talk about this. I usually see them valued sell at 2 to 3x a PSA 10. That's black labels and prestige. But do you see them as actually undervalued considering the pop disparity and scarcity? Are black labels and pristine BGS 10s undervalued compared to PSA 10s, Cage?
possibly. I will answer it with like any politician would be. It depends on the card, right? So there are cards that have a bunch of population out there. The last one that I looked at a PSA 10 versus a BGS 10 on, I'll give you 2 examples. And again, there'll be regret ones because those are the ones that stick out in your brain. The Tiger Woods that went up to $1,000, the card number 1 from Upper Deck. The PSA 10s were selling for $80 and the BGS 10s were selling for $100. That's because there were a lot of the BGS 10s also. So the premium was there, but it wasn't a huge premium. Same thing when the LeBron Chrome card had dropped down to 7,000, 7,500 ish. After he won it, temporarily was down at 7,500. I had somebody offer me a BGS 10 for $10,000. So that's not a 2x premium. It's obviously still a premium. It's about a 33% premium. It really does depend on the card and how many are out there, right? I mean, if you're talking about a card that has 100 PSA 10s but only 5 BGS 10s and maybe 1 pristine, that's going to have a huge premium on it. But one where there's enough BGS 10s out there, it's not going to have a premium at all. There's no multiple. I know everybody in this hobby tries to create multiples on them. The other thing I will say about this is I'd be careful with BGS 10s, right? Putting my money in them. I think they'll always have value. But I know Gary King Pokemon, the guy who has, I think he has 2 of the 3 Charizard BGS 10s. He'll tell you right off the bat that some of his PSA 10s are nicer than the BGS 10s. That's one. And two, as we homogenize this hobby, right, and PSA becomes the standard bearer that allows liquidity in what we're doing, it allows funds to be created, allows StockX to just sell PSA 10s as if every card is the same. I think there is the possibility that PSA just becomes the card that people want. Like, I personally don't buy BGS slabs. I don't buy SGC slabs because I think PSA is far and away, the one that will maintain value and the one that will have continuity and liquidity for the hobby. So, BGS is probably better. A BGS 10 is probably better. But my kids are going nuts because the school just called. It's supposed to be a snowstorm, so there's supposed to be snow tomorrow, so school was canceled. Little does my daughter know, she has no school, but she's got to go to the dentist, so she's got a worse day. She should stop celebrating. So
snowstorms work with a remote environment.
Yeah, I mean, great. My kids are home from school anyway, so I guess the kitchen's closed because of the snow. I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, I would just a little bit of caution I preach with BGS stuff, just because I think PSA is ultimately going to be going to be everything.
We only have a few more questions. Okay, so PK Cards asks, do you guys like any Panini inserts besides the big ones? Color Blast, Kaboom, Downtown, those are the big guys. But do you like any others? Love the show, guys, and listen every day when I walk the dogs.
All right, so I'm going to answer this one with a real cheap one, which is buy what you love. And if you like Panini inserts, go ahead and buy Panini inserts. My answer is going to be no. Whenever I see Gary or anyone post their kabooms up, I think of Mean Girls, where Regina tells Gretchen to stop trying to make fetch happen. Fetch is not going to happen. I want to post that every single time. Like, stop trying to make kaboom happen, right? But you know what? When enough people, ride the train, come on, ride the train, like the Quad City DJs, man, then the train leaves the station and it goes. And kaboom, it's happened with. And kabooms are cool cards, but they were like nothing. They're in different products. Sometimes they're in Crown Royal, sometimes they're in different, releases.
What will make Kaboom have lasting power? You've seen inserts in the 90s that faded away, but there's a few that stayed. So what makes an insert have lasting power?
I don't know. I mean, to me, the inserts are the thing that people sell first. So I'm scared with inserts. If I take the question just from where am I putting my investment money, before I bought a Justin Herbert color burst or a LeBron kaboom, I would buy their rookie. I mean, you want to add that to your collection because you think it's pretty. You want to buy. Think about it, right? Would you rather have a Prism Silver Herbert or an Obsidian Color Burst Black? I guess if you can have both, go for both.
Well, guys, let me touch on that because as Cage is talking, I just searched Kobe Bryant kaboom, and you're not going to believe this. There's not one listing for under $10,000.
Yeah, why wouldn't they believe it? There's not that many of them out there. And that's kabooms have become the new GameStop. They've become the new pump and dump. So I don't get it. Kabooms are only bought by people in the hobby. You know what's bringing up the rookie cards is that people who are outside the hobby, like NFL players and NBA players, say, hey, I want a Michael Jordan rookie. I want a LeBron rookie. I want a Patrick Mahomes rookie. Nobody outside of this little sphere of influence is saying, oh, let me stockpile kabooms.
But what about like a kaboom from 2013 Kobe? There's only 10.
The ones that look ridiculous, the ones that look like my kid drew them.
Well, your kids are very talented, so don't discredit them. And Leah made our logo, so what is that?
That's true.
But there's only 7
cartoons.
PSA 10s.
Right. So there's also only 17 PSA 10, 1982 Dunruss Golf, Leaf Osthausen.
Well,
right?
I don't understand what you
Population's only half the story. Right? You can get a Padraig Harrington Dunruss rookie golf card from 1981 and it's got a pop of 17 also. So unwrap that pop for a second. Number one, part of low pop is because people haven't graded them. And kabooms just became a thing, Gretchen, in the last year. So I'll bet you that there's a shit ton of kabooms being graded. Also, be careful with current kabooms because they're a lot more plentiful now than they were in the past. Nobody gave a crap about kabooms before people started pumping them up, right? So that's number two. Number three, the kabooms were not $10,000 last year, right? There are plenty of kabooms out there. There's BGS kabooms, there's PSA kabooms, there's kabooms that were raw that are now being graded. And that's another card that nobody even gave a crap about, but they're all in PSA. Now, that's from an investment standpoint. You want to add some cool looking card to your portfolio? I'll give you one that's a Prism insert that I happen to like, but I don't love the long-term sustainable investment value. I think the stained glass stuff is gorgeous. I love the stained glass, like an old LeBron stained glass, like what was Shaway Vlogs has that cool picture, right? In front of a church, the stained glass one, right? I didn't even know it was a thing though. Like I opened up a couple of packs of Prism this year, and Ian pulled this Michael Thomas card that was all shiny, and it was a stained glass Michael Thomas, not the one you want, but a really pretty card. So if the question is taking it from like what cards do I like? I like those stained glass. And don't get me wrong, the color burst and the kabooms are really cool looking cards too. Kaboom's weird. Some of them came in packs that were not actually in wax boxes. They were like distributed in conventions. Some of them came in packs that were like just given out by Panini. I don't like that kind of stuff too, because then it's hard to trace, the real odds on them and how many of them are out there and stuff. So I try to stay away from that type of thing too. I hate to crap on the kaboom parade.
No,
everybody out there.
This is why they pay you the big bucks. We only got
everybody loves kaboom. I might be the only person in the world that doesn't think kaboom is the next big thing. So I guess I'll miss the boat on that one.
Matt Van 45 asks, is Topps Paper or Topps Chrome the move going forward, and why?
I'm going to say it's Topps Chrome, and it pains me to say it because obviously that's changing my thought process, but basketball is driving the industry now, and that 2003 Topps Chrome is the one that everybody talks about, everybody looks at, and the 1996 Topps Chrome is a close second, right? The LeBron, the Kobe, those are cards that everybody's buying, and it is in the public perception now that Topps Paper is the redheaded stepchild to Topps Chrome. It is the younger brother. It is the less desirable card. It is the one that you buy when you don't have the bankroll to buy the Chrome. And that has not been the case in baseball. And I used to say paper for two reasons. Number one, it was going to be harder to grade. So ultimately the population report is going to be better for it. That's usually if you're buying something raw. I would tell you to go with the paper because it's going to be harder to grade. And then ultimately the numbers will bear it out. But we haven't seen that. While the Chromes have a higher gem rate, I think they might produce less Chrome. So the numbers do kind of, even out. When you look at like a Tatis, let's say, between the paper and the Chrome sells for more, even though, the pop difference is not huge. The other answer I used to give was I like continuity in my own collection. So we talked about the Trout rookie card. Like I have a Trout. There was no Trout Chrome 2011 update. They just have the Trout paper update. So when I collect, I want to have the rookie card. I have the Trout. I want to get the same kind of card, the same update for Yelich, the same update for Betts. So what I'm saying here was basketball drives the hobby right now. And it's basketball buyers who are dipping into baseball as baseball season comes up, and they're the ones that dipped into baseball during last season. And I think if they walked up to a table at a show and somebody had a Tatis Chrome next to a Tatis paper, 9 times out of 10, the current investor in the market is going to buy that Chrome. And because of that, that means the demand is more for Chrome, and ultimately that Chrome price is going to wind up going up, and it's going to outpace the paper. And I think we've already started to see that. So
I love it. All right, just a few more here. So which sees bigger growth in 2021? This is from Drake's PC. Traditional sports, gaming cards, or digital cards and moments?
I think this year is going to be huge for gaming cards. I think we're a couple weeks away from Pokemon being in McDonald's Happy Meals. and bringing that into the public conscious. The 1996 Japanese Pokemon cards are probably going to have a really good year because it's the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. I think that'll trickle to, modern Pokemon, other gaming stuff, people looking in that area. Vintage had its run up. Vintage basketball had its run up. That was followed by Pokemon. Then vintage basketball took a little bit of a breather and has now come back roaring this weekend and in a couple weeks prior. The vintage Pokemon had that same sort of supply dump continuing in next month's PWCC. They're doing another big Pokemon thing again. There was another set that sold in golden auctions last night. That first edition Pokemon set sold for $660,000 ish with the buyer's premium. Congratulations, Jeremy, on another record price for that one. But I think that Pokemon is going to come out of this, and the same way that Vintage took a break and went back up and took another leg up, I think you're going to see that with Pokemon. I think you can see the prices go up again. Maybe not Charizard because that just hasn't stopped going up, but I think basically everything else is going to see a little bit of a run on Pokemon. So I think I'd go there. The digital stuff, I was hoping to get like a hot Top Shot question, and maybe there's one in there, and I won't get into it too much, but the digital stuff is intriguing, man. It really is. It's interesting. Like it is a FOMO kind of thing. Like, I don't know whether or not I buy the whole deal, but I'll tell you one thing. With the success of Top Shot, just the amount of user growth they've had, the amount of people engaged, just constant engagement. If I were Panini or Topps, I would be a little scared. I'd be trying to capitalize on the popularity of something like Top Shot now and trying to create my own version of it and or buying Top Shot and bringing it under my own umbrella. So I think there's definitely some growth for digital this year. People are all about it, man. You go where the money is, right? And if Bitcoin had the year that it had, and Altcoin and Dogecoin, and everybody's into crypto because of a crazy world market, and everybody's moving their money into alternate investments, well, what comes next after the baseball card and the football and basketball cards become alternate investments? How about an alternate investment? Stay in the hobby, but go with blockchain.
What do you think will happen to modern NBA cards? So if you look at vintage NBA, and most cards have appreciated, but if you compare, Zion Prism PSA 10, it's actually the same price just about that it was last year. Same with Ja. Zion Prism PSA 10s were $500 last year. Now they're $575. What do you, with the correction in modern basketball, what do you see happening?
So over the next couple of weeks, I will be buying. Here's my hint for you guys. I'll be buying my pick. I'll be buying Ja and Zion Prism cards. I will be. Raw, I'll be buying PSA 10s. I'll be buying them. And here's why. I'm going to take a lesson from Top Shot. There's just no reason not to. The rookie cards come out. The rookie moments come out. And everybody is falling over themselves to buy LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman. And I think what you're going to see is when Prism hits this year and people are paying $1,500 for a LaMelo Ball Prism PSA 10, everyone's going to say, wait a second, my Ja is too damn cheap. People can be like, I should just be buying a Ja and a half or two Ja's instead of this one LaMelo. I'm buying two Zions. I'm buying a Zion and a Ja for the price of this LaMelo. It's the same kind of thing that I think happened in football when this most recent product came out and it was significantly higher than the last product. When Prism came out and you look at the prices for Burrow and Herbert and these guys, and you look back a year or two, and you should be putting your money into, some of the other quarterbacks, Josh Allen, et cetera, especially if they're performing well. So what do I think modern? I think in the short term, I think you're going to see an increase in modern, especially when this year's Prism comes out. I think you're going to see people go crazy for the rookies here. And then there's a reassessment period, right? So someone's going to be faced with paying $500 for a Patrick Williams PSA 10, or be able to look back a year or 2 or 3 ago and say, you know what, DeAndre Hunter is really having a great year here. I'm going to buy 3 of his cards for the same price as one Patrick Williams. And that's just what happens. It's Zion and Ja helped Luka and Trey go up. It's that the rubber band effect, not just in PSA 10, 9, and 8, but in pulling up prior years. When Luka went up, people look back at Tatum. When Tatum went up, people look back at whoever else. So it's I think modern cards will be fine. I think you just have to be careful with modern cards because, think about what we're doing here. We're talking about 2003. People are buying LeBron cards. There's a recent spike in some Dwayne Wade. Maybe Carmelo will start to get some love comparatively, but that's like the top Hall of Famers in a generation. Eventually, people will be losing money on some of their investments in modern basketball. If you happen to be the person who came out and said, I'm going to put all of my money in Bruno Fernando, and Bruno does not pan out, then you might be one of the few people who lost money in the hobby this year. Now, that said, you're a gambler. If Bruno Fernando turns into the next LeBron, you're sitting pretty. But that's modern. Modern's got more risk to it.
What do you project for the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze podcast moving forward?
Project? Who's asking this question? Is this a question from you? This is not fair. You're not supposed to just ask me questions. I'll ask you the question. What do I think for Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze moving forward? I love what we have going on. I love the audience, the Luka Nation questions, the comments, the interaction. I would love more. I want to continue to grow our audience. I want to continue to have the groups that we have. I love when people message us asking to invest. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world because we will ultimately end up doing something like that, right? We have to, because this is a podcast that is nothing without you guys, without Luka Nation. So I love hearing that, when somebody messages us and says, I don't want to put my money in Zion and Ja, I want to put my money in Andrew and Cage. That's the biggest compliment I can get. And, we'll work on that Allen and Ginter dual auto for you guys, we promise. But what do I see for us? I see we have a model that works. I really think that, despite the fact that I think you drink a little too much kombucha. But I see big things. I think 2021, we're just getting started here. I think we're just getting started. I see big things for us. And I'm lucky because I would be talking about cards and messing around with cards for 4, 5, 6, 8 hours a day anyway. So this is great. It's just like, it's an extension of me being able to have fun and talk to you guys. So
there's a fun little exchange between Ken Golden and Darren Rovell on Twitter. So we talked about how Darren posted 2 Jordans sold last night for $738,000. But if collectors believe that's really the new price for PSA 10, why is there one for $454 on StockX? And Ken Golden, only as Ken Golden could do, replied, maybe because they actually do not show the picture of the card. There's no PSA serial number, no back of the card, no usable description. And when I personally tried to buy it, they changed the price to $723.
Correct. That's what I said. There's none there before and change. So I don't know what Ravel likes to throw ice water on things when he doesn't own them. Like my Pele card. Ravel, you want to come on the show? You happen to listen to this? Anybody know Ravel out there? I'm going to send him a message. Come on, let's talk about the Jordan. Because we'd love to hear your thought on it. But listen, to give him some credit, if there really was at the time of that tweet a Jordan sitting out there for $458 and nobody bought it, that's something it's relevant to point out, because what is there money laundering going on in the golden auctions? Is it a real price? Is it somebody manipulating the same way people do on eBay? So it's definitely something worth pointing out, and good for Ken, because Ken wants to defend the the validity of his auction, and He should come out and reply to that tweet and say to Ravel, hey, payment's in, payment cleared, both Jordans have been shipped, payment in, all good. You should do that.
There's another episode for you guys. Love you, Luka Nation.
Listen, guys, one more thing before we go. I know it's not a Coffee with Cage question, but it's a Cage little thing if my phone doesn't die here. We love every single one of you guys. And there was a lot of stuff out there content-wise about the Dallas show that went on this week. And I woke up and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have gone to the Dallas show. Oh, the Dallas show. I'm going to tell you something. That's not us, right? I'm not running around the Dallas show right now. Maybe we'll get there. But right now, you know what we're doing? We're not out there talking about, telling you guys to hop in a car and drive to a card show right now and spend all your money. We're at home with you guys, right? We're also wearing masks and stuck at home with our kids. We got them here, up at the kitchen island at school. We are, poor Andrew doesn't even want to come to the country. He wants to hide in Mexico. He's so impacted by this stuff. But we're here to give you those plays, to talk to you, to answer your questions. And, when this thing opens up again, you will see Andrew and I. You'll see us at the National. You'll see us in Chicago. You'll see us when the world is there. don't feel like you have to rush out of this craziness, this COVID funk, to go to Dallas. We weren't there, and we're both doing fine in the hobby as well. So, if what I'll ask you guys, this COVID Cage is my Cage question to you. If you feel like you missed something this week, you would have traded a card, you would have bought a card, you would have had a conversation, you would have might tried to sell a card. Let's have a virtual Dallas. Let's have a virtual card show on the Luka Nation Instagram. Send us a message. Say, hey, if I was at the show, I would have tried to look for this card. Is this a good card? What do you think I should be looking at? What do you think I should be paying for this card? Hey, I have a trade that I would have made with somebody. Here's the trade. Send us the thing. You know what? We might even post that on our page. Here's a trade. I want to trade this LeBron for this Jordan. I want to trade this stack of modern cards for this. And let's get Luka Nation involved.
Throw me some Marvel stuff, whatever it may be. Hey, I'm looking at this card. We'll give it out. I'll tell you first. Yeah, I'm going to give this one as a pick. I love the idea. You got a trade out there. That's one of the things we'd love to put up as content, right? Hey, hey, Andrew, I'm thinking about, trading these three, Tyler Hero and a Ja to trade up to this Kobe third year or whatever it may be in PSA 10. Throw it out there. We'll give you what we think. And, maybe if you want, we'll post it up on our page and say, hey, one of the listeners of Luka Nation is thinking about doing this trade. Which side would you rather be on? Do you think this is fair? We'll poll the audience, the kind of stuff that goes on at shows, So, yeah, I mean, guys, this is a fun Coffee with Cage because we have a lot of that FOMO stuff. We're playing on the, who missed out on Bitcoin and who missed out on Dogecoin and who bought into GameStop and who missed out on buying a Michael Jordan card before they tripled in value. The thing is, there'll be something else next week. So we're here. We're having fun. We hope you guys are still having fun with this stuff. And, you haven't missed out on anything because I think we're still real early in this hobby. So send us a message. We'll respond. We promise. Thanks, Luka Nation.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lukas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.